that's what I've got to do. Mute. Okay, so now I can't actually hear you guys because you guys are muted because people obviously are joining in on a Zoom call, and I don't want it to like bing bong all over the place, and that makes it very distracting and kind of ruins the video and the recording. So today I'm going to specifically start talking about drafting your launchable ads, I suppose, or like, and I as much as I say launchable ads, I mean like anything compelling. Like I kind of specialize in ads because that's the industry I'm in, but I look at this structure and this process that I've created. I don't think I created it. I think I just found it, and I think it's probably universal, but I look at this and I think this is great for everything, but we're going to specifically talk about long form adverts. And I also make it about long form adverts rather than short form adverts, because I think this is where a short form advert derives from. And I'm just going to quickly distinguish the difference or differentiate between what a long form and a short form advert is. And we're talking about digital marketing these days, and copy specifically. So I'm talking mostly about YouTube scripts because that's just where I've got most of my experience from. And I've now even got a lot more data since I've been running my own launchable ads, I suppose, and they're all YouTube scripts. I have done some short form ads, but they didn't necessarily derive from my structure, and that for me is where the bulk of my experience comes from. However, when you get, well, I believe that you have to have an amalgamation of both to have a fully functioning campaign anyway, from like from advert to email, because the landing page will have copy that is short form, but it's got to derive specifically from the advert. And I have some really interesting data just this week on that specific thing, which really, really backs up my theory or my proposition that the long form ad, I suppose, is the everything, is the start of everything, and you derive all the short form, you derive everything out of that. And so I guess part of my philosophy is that, and I've always felt this way, is that creating is about pulling out of what is already existing. And I've always found that the best work I've ever done, and I've done actual creative writing stuff as well, like not just ad writing. I have a degree in creative writing, and I was going to do a master's in it. And I found that whenever the best stuff came out of me, it was like, I didn't really create it. It just came out of something else. And I was inspired by other things. And it was this amalgamation of stuff. So anyway, my theory is that your creativity and your work comes out of a well, I suppose, and then derives that. So in this particular instance, I think your long form advert is, once you've created that, it is the well by which you can draw all other things from: your images, your headlines, your targeting, to a certain extent, your landing page copy, thank you page video, emails. If you have multiple products as well, like it's the crux. And so today we're going to talk about the draft. So that's what I'm calling this lecture, and it's about how to get that ad down. And I definitely know that there are some people on this call that need some support with getting the one draft down, so that they can, start moving forward. So I'm hoping that this will help you guys. And I'm going to set in some rules, which I hope will mean that you get past the draft. I think we all, especially within my community, we can all really, really empathize with this idea that there's so many drafts. There's drafts everywhere. Draft. We draft too much, and they're all over the place, and they're in these different places, and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to make it like the one and only draft which you're going to make your launchable ad. And there are 3 stages to this. I love stages. There's the research stage, there's the plan stage, and there's the writing stage. And this is the writing without stopping stage. And then the most important is the save and accept. This is your draft stage. And so I'm going to take you through all of those stages. And I'm trying to make this one a really practical call, to help actually get a draft down, so you guys can, and you know what, we'll make it into a sort of like a challenge as well. By this Friday, we'll have everyone submit a draft into the Ad Lab, and I'll award the best draft draft, not ad, the best draft with a free coaching session. And so if this is on YouTube, I suppose the link will be to the Ad Lab will be in the description. You guys who are all on the Ad Lab today, you can just submit it. It doesn't have to be an advert. We just want to have a draft. So we'll do it like that to incentivize you and make it practical. Okay, but step one is research, because it's the well by which your draft will come out of. I think this is going to be a theme of this particular lecture. And where we need to research is just like, so I kind of always take this in the way that I used to take university and my studies and anytime I've learned anything. And so I'll try and make it less scholarly for anyone who, you know, didn't do that, because this isn't necessary. But I wonder if the fact that I went through university, I was trained to be a critical thinker. I think that was the whole point of university, is to train you to be a critical thinker. Whether they were successful or not, another point. But you have to know a lot of detail and information and retain it in the way that is best for you. And so let's just, like, don't give yourself all these parameters to specifically, you know, figure out everything, but you want to build up a big picture of what it is that you're promoting and I mean that just, if you want to compel anyone, you know, you have a big picture, right? Like, think about when you're having an argument with someone at a party and you're like, oh, not that I go around arguing with people at parties, but you know, when you get into one of those really like interesting debates and you have just so much information that just comes out of you and you're like, I know all the answers to this, usually because you have a big picture and a variety of different angles of that particular concept in your head. So that's kind of where you want to get yourself to from the research point of view. You want to absorb as much information from as many different angles so that you have this grasp of it that's dynamic. And what's really annoying, and I think this is where people struggle with the draft, is that you cannot share all that information. Actually, the best draft is a case of dismissing so much of it and taking out so much so that you're left with just one sort of kernel of like value. But you still want to have this really big picture. Because it just creates it helps you create a dynamic draft that has multiple different, like, there's just depth, and I can really identify someone who knows what they're talking about by the depth they go into within this small amount of words. And I'm hoping to help you develop that with this today, like how you develop depth in a small amount of words, and that has to come through understanding exactly what you're talking about. And know this as well, look at it as a long-term thing. Probably, I mean, so depending on what your marketing strategy is, but for me, like, I've been promoting the same product, which is developing over years, and helping people promote that product like that. And most people, I worked with one company who's a cleaning company, and their service is not going to change, but you know, things might change. So it's this long process, right? So you're not going to learn absolutely everything, and you'll be piecing things together over time. But just building up that picture and staying committed to it is like step one. And the things that we want to first figure out, the first things, is what are the edges, right? And I know this is going to be frustrating for some people who are promoting digital products, and it's like, there are no edges, it's virtual, but there are edges, I assure you. And one thing I've kind of gotten down here is, like, I've got some example products which we can define and we can see. And I'm trying to also pick them at the, almost not the lead magnet. Some of them are lead magnets, but some of them are like the actual product itself. So that there's not a big, huge thing that you're selling. It's just like, what's the it's kind of sellable en masse, right? So it's the thing that's the easy push, I suppose. So we've got a list of those things to get in, to look at how we can research these things, even though they're all different. How would we apply research to them that then informs our marketing material? And the other thing we want to look at is the avatar. And as far as I can tell, those are the two main things, aside from competition and what's already out there. So the market, I suppose, that's another thing we want to take into consideration, like what are other competitors doing and X, Y, Z. But I think for most people that are on this call and will be watching this, you're going to be affiliate marketers. You've kind of almost got all the things in place for you already. So you just need to look at what's kind of already available to you. It's like beginner stuff. You can look at what's already available to you. And if you want to develop a career in marketing, just know that it gets more complicated as you go out and you want to start looking at competitive audiences, lookalikes, well, similar products, all that stuff. But basically, I think what it boils down to is who's buying what product, right? That's the main thing. And there's a relationship between those two that creates the message, which will be the thing that compels that person to buy this product. So what does the product look like, smell like, function like? What's the intended purpose of the product? Because if you look at, like, some things are developed to do something else, but it turns out they end up being something else. I haven't got a great example of that right now, but I do know that, sometimes an intended, I think medicines have something to do with that. Like, you intend them to be something and they end up with something else. And the actual purpose. Other things, like, what's the price package? What's the price package? What are the alternative tiers available? Like, just build up this full picture of what's available. And the product that I specialize in is, digital education, which has multiple arms and multiple different avenues of education that you can go down. So I like to understand the full picture, in not necessarily in super detail, but I will go through the detail and figure out, I want to find out a relationship between all of those products or all of those avenues, and then I can summarize it into one line. I just want to get really understand what everything is going on. So figure it all out. What are you selling? Like, what is the value of it? And particularly what I'm an affiliate of, it has a lead magnet. So I'm more focused, if I really want to get down to it, is to focus on the lead magnet, because that's the one thing I'm selling, because it has a very smooth sales system in the back end for me, so I don't have to worry about that. But when I have worked with clients, we work in it on a step-by-step sort of thing, and we break down the product in a sort of value chain of what's cheapest first to what's most expensive, and work through those different dimensions. But they should usually be a relationship between them. They can't just be random sort of things, otherwise it doesn't work. Okay, so here's some just product ideas that we can sort of like think about in terms of what are the edges of these. I've got perfume. Like, that's an interesting one in its dynamic, because it comes in a bottle and is a liquid, but it's actually the fragrance of the perfume that is the product, right? It's not actually the liquid, it's the fragrance of the perfume. So then you're defining smell. Rather than, but at the same time, the way the perfume looks is pretty significant to the sales. We just know that, otherwise perfume bottles wouldn't be in fancy looking bottles. So there's those dimensions to, like, a perfume that make it not super easy to define the parameters of it. I've also got a table. That is very easy to define the parameters of it. We know what a table is, but what kind of table is it? There's lots of different types of table. A lecture like this. What are the parameters of my lecture? What are they? Is it what I'm saying, or is it the Zoom screen, or is it the recording? Where does it exist, and what are the labels to it? Like, what is it? And this is the stage as well of description, not analysis. This is really important to understand the distinction of these. Description is almost like, well, it's just defining. It's a definition. And as soon as you start to draw value on the definition, like, as in, like, so let's just say if we're defining my lecture, for instance, it's a lecture that teaches you how to understand. It's like the understand. If I'm starting to talk about how you will start to understand, that's analysis right there. It's like perfume. If I say it's now here's the defining thing. It's a liquid that makes you smell better. That's an analysis of what the function of the liquid is. But it's a liquid that smells, is a description and a definition. Yeah, liquid in a bottle. But what actually defines it as perfume is that it has a fragrance. A fragranted liquid that is confined to a bottle. Like, that's how we really understand what it is. So just to sort of clarify, I had a comment in the Zoom chat that was liquid in a bottle. But to get much deep, the full description would have a reference to the smell, but not the function, not what the smell does for the user, right? The description of it is how we define the parameters. So all of the things that it does. I've got a webinar as well. I know a lot of people will be promoting lead magnets, webinars, workshops. What are the defining characteristics? And this is really interesting as well, because there's two dimensions, especially to digital education. There's the what it looks like, as we said about this lecture. It looks like XYZ. It's a man presenting a thing that is in this particular industry, niche, demographic, market, whatever, and it's a training material, it's educational, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of analysis there, the lines kind of blur. And then you've also got, there's that sort of shows the two dimensions there. There's the what is the content being delivered versus what it actually is. It's a page with a video on it with green edges, so there's two dimensions. But just like the perfume as well, I think those two dimensions are actually relevant to each other. You just have to define all of them, all of the relevant dimensions, and then you can, without the analysis, to just give you this real tangible image. And I'm wondering now as well, this is something to really consider. How many of you are seeing, as I'm talking, a bottle of perfume, a webinar? You're like maybe experiencing it from a sort of psychological perspective. Like maybe it's me, but I'm seeing a webinar or a person delivering some sort of training, or I'm seeing lots of different perfume bottles as I'm talking about it. And I don't see this enough in people's ads. I don't see it enough. It's too much fluff that doesn't give a real tangible picture or feeling or sensory vibe. But I think the edges or the parameters of a product is what helps us really make it real in our minds. And someone needs to feel the reality of that product in order to feel it an investment or to be able to see themselves using it. They need to be able to really conceptualize what it is, which is what I'm experiencing right now as I'm talking about it. I'm experiencing the conceptions of a perfume, of a table, all these things that just the labels of them describing. And if you're in a competitive market, let's say everyone's promoting a webinar becomes cliche. So you lose the image of it. If you say it too many times, you stop getting that image of it, which is why you have to be very specific about the definitions, because you just want them to see it in their minds. And then, right, they can experience the benefits. And that's what I think a description does a lot, because people can create the benefits from a description, but it's hard to create a description from the benefits. So I really, really think it's better to start this way around, describing the product. Golf shoe, computer mouse, lampshade, living room sketch, right? What would someone who sketches up an interior design of your living room, right? What that product? What is that? Toothpaste, bag of compost. I've got sunglasses and AirPods. These are all products essentially, and they all have these different dimensions to them. And I think that's really important to take that into consideration as well. Each of these, we can see how dimensions of a product, not like as in like 50 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 20 centimeters. I mean like the planes that they sort of inhabit. Like, so for instance, we talked about the perfume. It's got this dimension of smell and the dimension of looking and the dimension of feeling, versus a webinar, which has the dimension of us absorbing information over, it's got the dimension of time as well, and also what it looks like. And these are the things that differentiate things from each other, these different dimensions. So creating this full picture of where a product lies in what realm is really what helps define it from other things. And so if you want to stand out in a saturated crowd, giving it edges across really defining it in all these planes is going to help create this real three-dimensional experience for someone. That's super important. Everyone talks about cutting through the noise and blah, 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 and powerful copy. And I'm like, just fucking say it like it is in as much detail as possible. And you'll see a real significant impact on that. But then how do you do that with relevance? Okay, so that's something I'm going to tackle on this call as well. So description of the product, that's the research phase of you. Just understand as much about it across multiple different planes as you possibly can. And write, or I don't know, however you learn. I write things down, never review my notes, although I always intend to. Good intentions to review my notes, never do. Okay, so then obviously the avatar as well, and try and understand them on multiple dimensions as well, like who they are, what they look like, and what they do on their daily basis. But what I will say is just go to the well. Like if you're part of a community promoting an affiliate product, for example, and there's a Facebook group full of 1,000 people, you just look who they are. Look in your community. Look at the people that are already buying the product, and kind of just summarize them. Who are they? What are they doing? Like what ties them together? And then once you've got these two things, you've got the message, you've got the product in a big picture, and you've got the person in a big picture, and maybe you've got a bit about market research. You're just building up this picture, right? Don't worry too much about how much you've got. Just keep going until you're like, I know a fair amount. Because bear in mind, you only need to select a small amount of that. And if you just research a lot and just learn a lot about it, you're already in a much better position than a lot of other people. And then we kind of move on to the Holy Grail. What I call it the Holy Grail. I'm going to have to rename it because it's a bit of a cliche and doesn't really speak to its value. But the process of developing your draft, okay? So how I've broken it down, but I'm going to add a new dimension to it as well, is we've got the, where is it? Okay. Step one, which we've kind of done with the research phase anyway. Step one, describe exactly what you're selling with as much detail as possible about what it actually is. And this is description, not analysis. Two, what is the immediate benefit of what that thing provides? I.e., what is its undeniable benefit? Undeniable benefit, not implications of what that benefit provides on someone's lives. That's the second step. It's what is the undeniable benefit that someone experienced from that thing. So let's take perfume as well. It's a fragrant liquid confined within a bottle that looks kind of nice. So the immediate benefit is, well, once, and it's interesting as well, you have to get quite visceral and you have to sort of like start using it. And that might be something you would advertise, like, what's that experience? That's kind of a bit of a self-love thing, but anyway, that's beside the point. The spraying, once you've sprayed, you are hopefully a better smelling human, right? That's an immediate benefit. There's no denying that. And if someone buys perfume, that's a part of the reason they buy it. Now, there's alternative reasons. There's like a fashion, or there's some significance or status and all that stuff. But the immediate benefit is that you smell better. And then you say, and this is also very basic as well. You can get much more creative, but let's say basic anyway. Who would want that immediate benefit, or why? Or let's say, why would someone want that immediate benefit? Okay, so I don't smell of perfume right now. What would smelling of perfume do for me? I think it makes me feel a bit like more. I think it gives me a sense of status. I'm not necessarily sure, maybe a bit of confidence, but I think so I was talking about deodorant on a previous one. Deodorant gives me a sense of confidence and comfort. I feel much more able to go out into the world. But with perfume, I'm like, I feel a bit more, I want to say obnoxious, but that's not necessarily the right word. I feel a bit more proud. I think Julia's laughing at me, but I think there's a difference between when you wear perfume versus when you wear deodorant. And when you smell someone who's fragrant, you kind of think they really care about themselves. So I suppose like it gives me this sense of importance. I think that's what it does. So there's an interesting difference between deodorant and perfume. Like I can see these benefits. So someone might want to feel radiant, like important, like desirable. You can start to feel these benefits like from what the experience of having perfume does for you, and then you can start putting those people into a scene. Where would those things place you, right? Where would that feeling of self-important, where would you want that? And it's no wonder when we go through this thing that perfume tends to have like this romantic element about it. It seems to be it's about attracting people, I think. But it'd be interesting to see if there's other benefits as well. Like why would someone want the benefit of smelling more fragrant? Why would someone want that benefit? And now we could go, who would want that? And that starts to create the story. So now we've almost got a storyline. Let's talk about, I suppose, a webinar. That's more relevant. So now this is really interesting as well, because I've been working on 2 projects which are quite similar recently, which relate to this. Let's talk about lead magnet, a webinar, for instance. The immediate benefit, and regardless of what the content of the webinar is, or the workshop, or whatever it is, regardless of, or even a PDF, whatever it is well, if it's worth its salt, at least, it will be educational. So the immediate benefit, regardless of what the actual content is that I will, hopefully, if it's good, be more learned. I will have more awareness over a particular topic. That's the immediate undeniable benefit, right? Unless someone already knows all the information that is provided on the webinar, which means that your targeting is bad, but that's beside the point. The undeniable value or the undeniable benefit of a webinar, of a workshop, of a PDF, whatever, is I will know more. I will know more about, and then, I will know more about this specific topic. Okay, so let's talk about, what I'm promoting specifically, there's 2 areas of this as well. Actually, let's go on to that first. So for those of you know that I work with Dan Holloway, and he's recently released the Path Assessment. I'm working with him on that, which is in a similar industry to what I'm already sort of placed within, but it's a different lead magnet. So I had to differentiate what the value was between the Path Assessment versus workshops, which is what I'm normally promoting. And just in their form, so by describing the elements and the parameters of both these things, I can already identify the words that distinguish them. So the Path Assessment essentially is a quiz that you enter your details, and out pops your ideal business model for whatever your personal circumstances are. And so that means I can say, well, the immediate benefit of taking the Path Assessment is that it will give you more clarity on what is the right business for you. So it's like that kind of suggests a problem to me. So I'm taking the elements of it and then I'm picking the problem out of that. Whereas these workshops, I guess it could go to a much more like someone who doesn't necessarily need to have these questions, right? A quiz where it takes your details and produces an answer. It seems like it's giving you clarity, whereas the workshops is a bit more passive. So therefore, it's not personalized. So it's much more answering a question on your behalf without you having to have too much thought into it. So there's a difference between the education and the interaction element of it, which even though they're similar, these 2 things, the Path Assessment, which I've been working on, and the workshops, they're very similar audiences, if not the same audiences, but they have different problems. One of them is suggesting a problem of not enough clarity. The other one is suggesting a problem of not knowing enough. And so I can start to determine what my message will be based on these 2 different things because of what the lead magnet is, even though the back-end products are both educational. It's both educational, like, options, and there's free, there's further, a lot more value in the Path Assessment. There's lots of free stuff, and I'm not going to use this to promote it, but go do it. I'm joking. But there's educational versus clarity in that. And so when I was working on the Path Assessment with Dan, the first thing I said was like, what do they get at the end of the Path Assessment? Clarity. Okay. How do they get clarity? Well, they enter in their details, and from that, then we use this crazy technology to figure out where they score on particular points. And then obviously these options come out for them based on their circumstances. So it's sort of bespoke. I was like, okay. And so the advert I constructed was about a bespoke package that gives you clarity on what your next step is. And that's almost like the second part dealt with, the first part, then I have to figure out what the problem is. Well, if the solution, which I've worked out from the package, is a bespoke service that takes your details and identifies what's the right path for you, it therefore suggests that the person does not know the path that's right for them, but wants to figure out what's right for them because they want to achieve certain goals. So then I'm constructing this from that, right? So I started there and I've gone out. And I only go three steps outwards. I go solution, well, problem, solution, call to action, sort of different. Well, product, I guess, solution, and then the problem. And the problem, which I worked out. So we got the product, and then we've got the immediate benefit, which is the solution section. Then it denotes the problem of lack of clarity. But the real problem that this whole thing solved was that they aren't living the kind of life that they would like to lead based on their personal circumstance, not personal circumstance, based on their work situation, because the education that we're promoting is how to create an online business or how to earn money in a different way than what the traditional trading time for money way. So the thing that they're feeling, which I've taken, it's the message dimension past all the product. This is the fluffiest bit. This is as fluffy as I'll get. I won't go further than that, which is the dream bit, which is where most marketers I find, especially within the digital education realm, sit. What the avatar wants with this path assessment and with this business avenue and with the education is to improve their life and have more choice in their life. So that's where therein lies my whole, I guess, message, the parameters of my message, and I will not veer either further. I won't go after the path assessment. There's some free training for you, and after the free training, there's other things. You know, there's lots of things that go behind that, and also in terms of creating a great life for yourself, there's lots of things that go the other side as well. Like you can just get lost going, and it's a never-ending telescopic thing that has multiple different vines going everywhere. So what I've done, and this is my research phase, I go to the very edges of both, from the abstract to the very, very definitive, quiz to life goals, and then I fill out everything in between, and I will not go further. So I have I had someone on my messages call yesterday who's promoting a free workshop, and on the thank you page of that process, after the lead magnet in the emails is a workshop, on the thank you page she's promoting a webinar, free webinar. She had the webinar in the advert towards the end as an addition. It's almost like, if those are the parameters, someone wants to change their life by creating an online business, here's the workshop. The webinar comes out here along with so many other educational opportunities, as well as so many other life dreams that come out this side. Her advert should have been within this realm, but she added a little bit on, and it just diluted the message. It just didn't do it any favors, but it wasn't the biggest problem, so we didn't have to address that. But this is just what I'm saying. Those are your parameters. That's what you set out to start with. The fluffiest part of the message is the life they want to have, and the most mechanical part of the message is the exact parameters of the product you're selling, and the message is the story and the relationship between these two, and it will not go further out of these realms. It just has to stay in here, and that gives you this real nice sort of like ballpark of which to play with. And that's where I talk about the 5 calls to action, and you can go off on tangents and negotiate with all this story within your advert, but only if you stay within these confines. This is your safe zone. Do not go outside of these. Don't start building other life pictures. Don't start talking about other back-end products. No upsells here. It's just what you're selling. And by all means as well, I have people say like, oh, but what if I want to promote the webinar on the thank you page instead? Or what if I want to promote the actual sale of the product? Or what if I want to promote, rather than a PDF, like I had a cleaning company, I said, what if I want to promote the first click? Fine. But what you have to do is you have to set the parameter. What is the description of the product, whether it's a lead magnet, whether it's a sale, whether it's a high-end product, whatever it is, just define the parameters of that product, and then figure out the very furthest point of abstraction, which will be no more than three or four steps out. So it's like product, benefit, why would someone want that, and what does that imply on their life? That's the furthest reach. 4 steps, I think 3 steps of abstraction is enough, but 4 steps, playing too far. So this particular model here, these I guess they're steps of abstraction. Fluffy to tight. This applies to everything. This is how we draw connections between our life and a product we buy, and how the emotional stuff comes in. So I know I say a lot about like talking about the tangible element of it, and that's only because what I see most often in my community is that people are residing here too much. But if you reside in the tangible side too much, you are also it's gonna alienate and not show the full potential. But who knows, you might still make sales. But like, this is how you get the full potential of your advert. Now, how this looks, if you've got that bar, right, those 4 steps or 3 steps of abstraction, you want to multiply that by 3 to get the body of your script. So this is like tough, right? This is where the relatable section, the tangible section, and the legitimate section come in. But they have to, it's like each of these steps of abstraction apply into all 3 realms. And this is how you can see, like, that's a really detailed script, right? That's got there's a lot of relationships going on. It's a real tapestry. So within each section, you must have this barometer of tangible to sort of abstract, if possible. So that's when we break it down into like problem, solution, call to action within each sort of segment. So let's talk about, I'm going to use the path assessment because this is what I've been working on mostly, I suppose. And I don't think physical products is necessarily relevant for this call, but okay. So the path assessment, here's what, and this is what I would want you to do. So this is the research phase, and you kind of want to, so that's like, I suppose, we'll talk about the problem, solution, call to action first, and then how I would put that into a plan. So the second stage is the plan, by the way. So we've done the research phase. And you've kind of pulled together all these ideas, and you've kind of mingled them together into this sort of like fuzzy, weird, annoying bar. Therein lies, you've got to define the problem and the solution and the call to action, and they should always sort of be the same. So the problem, let's say the path assessment, how we've boiled it down with the path assessment is create more choice in your life, figure out the right business path for you, take the path assessment now. Those are the parameters. And Dan wanted to have, Dan felt like it was all about replacing your income. And we're still testing this. I'm sure I'm not breaching any issues here by discussing this, but his theory was that it's all about replacing your income. But my argument was like, well, replacing your income, otherwise known as, I suppose that's the solution, right? That to me fits into the solution, or the vehicle, sometimes I call it. It's the thing that once they've replaced their income with some kind of business model, you then have more choice or freedom in your life, right? So that's the fuzziness is still here. It's the outcome that they want with the vehicle, which is replace your income. And the solution is take the path assessment now. But the problem we had with that as a plan is that replace your income doesn't necessarily suggest a quiz or a path assessment. It didn't fit. Does this make sense? So like let's just break it down into how I have abstracted it. Create more choice in your life, replace your income, take path assessment. Replace your income doesn't have anything to do with the path assessment. So I said what would be more appropriate is create more choice in your life, replace your income, learn how to build an online business or start an online business. Because they add into each other. Do you see? They contribute to one another. But when the product is an assessment that defines what is your best business or money-making opportunity, the problem has to be a lack of awareness over what your path is, which then enables you to create the choice. So the problem that's causing you not to have choice in your life is your lack of awareness of what's your right path. So the middle part, I think this is a bridge between the fluff, the dream, and the product, the intangible and the tangible. The bridge has to have a relationship between both sides. So that's why I was like, create more choice in your life, figure out the right path for you, take the path assessment. That makes more sense to bridge these two together. And there's a much more fuller picture. So that was where we boiled it down to. That was almost like the plan. And now we've got like the short form copy as well as the development of the long form copy. And so then I go relatable section. So here's how I then boil that down. So I've got like how I would categorize this. This is now the plan stage. We've got a brainstorm, relatable. You're going to put problem, solution, call to action, context, right? And you're just going to write as much. You just here. I'm even going to show you. Oh, I'll get my iPad on the next time I do this, and we can show you how I do this. I just put like relatable here, bubble. Okay, so what are their problems? Okay, lack of clarity. Come back. So it'd be like lack of clarity. Okay, how does that relate to the path assessment? Okay, so well, they figure out right path. What's their lack of clarity come from? Okay, so wanting freedom, or freedom in their life. Okay, but they don't have the clarity to do that, so they need to figure out the right assessment. And now I need to make it relatable. So what sort of implications is this problem going to have on their life? Well, they're stuck in a job they don't love, right? What else might happen? What are the implications of them being stuck in a job? Not paid enough. Or maybe not paid appropriately, right? Maybe if you're working a job, you've got this trading time for money thing. So it's not necessarily how much you're paid, it's the way you earn money. And it's interesting as well, because the workshops I promote also solve this exact problem. I think that the workshops with learning how to build an online business are solving the problem of the way you're earning money isn't a fit for your lifestyle. So if you want a better lifestyle, you need to earn money differently. That's more efficient, right? So then I've got, and this is just the relatable section. So I've got stuck in a job, not paid enough / not paid the right way. It's about the way you're earning money. That's very important as well. Like you look at all these cliche things, not paid enough, job, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually the thing that tips the needle is the way you earn money. It's not, you don't earn enough money, you're not paid enough. It's like the way you earn money is causing a problem, because being paid per hour, being paid a salary makes you lose an element of control in your life. So I'm playing with that. All of that stuff I'm playing in this section alone. And this is why I say, like, you can go off in tangents so long as you remain within this confine, in this space here. And I go off on loads. Maybe I'll share the advert at the end. Actually, I'll see if I can find it for you guys, so you can see exactly how I do this. Stuck in a job, not paid enough, I feel like there's a better way. If I'm in this situation, feel like there's a better way. But what I'm remembering is like, oh, okay, I've also got to incorporate this lack of clarity. I've also got to incorporate we're wanting freedom, which comes back to the problem bit. And I've got to somehow incorporate a quiz still in this section, right? This section still incorporates the element. It's got to still have, throughout the whole advert, it's got to have the problem, solution, and the call to action. It's just that this section also has to have a bit about them, about relating to exactly where they're at. So that's the relatable section done. And so what I would do is I would say, okay, let's talk about them to start with. Okay, so you're stuck in a job that you don't love. You're feeling as though you're trading time for money, and that's not the most efficient way to live. And you feel like there is a better way, but like you don't necessarily know what is the right path for you. Maybe you've looked at online business stuff before and you've gone down a path and you've figured out that it's just not the right way for you. Maybe you had to, and I'll go into the tangible section. I won't go too much in depth there, but I also would say, because I know about this, the model with the quiz is that the circumstances it takes into consideration is the amount of money you can invest, the amount of time you can invest, whether you've got a skill set or not. And those are the three main things that we're focusing on within that plan. So I'm being premature by showing you how I would deliver that particular part, because I also know what my next steps are because I've got my plan. But that's how I would deliver it in that way, is talk about their problem, and then I would seed in, well, how do you fix that when you've tried alternatives and they just didn't feel right for you, maybe, money wise or whatever it is. So I would feed back that, but just relating to their problem, and say, well, if that's without a huge amount of detail, because this is all about them, this section relating to them. If you're trading time for money and you don't feel like that's the best solution, and you'd like to earn money in a different way, but you've tried alternative business opportunities, and the problems that come with that is that you go through this path and you're not sure it's right for you, and maybe it requires an investment, but is it the right investment to make? How do you know if it's right for you? Okay, well, we have a solution to that. If you take the path assessment, it's going to figure out all of your circumstances and is going to pair you with a business model that is right for you based on your circumstances. That's the whole relatable section done. The next step would be tangible. And so the next step would be, well, the elements, now we're talking about all of the problem, solution, call to action, but in relationship to the elements of the product, right? And so I'll be saying, so I know there's got to be a call to action where it will be, take this quiz, which will give you more clarity on what path is right for you. And the thing is, it's based on your circumstances. It will then be like, okay, so what I want to pull out is where is there missing, oh, I've come off the page. Where is there a missing, what's it? Like a missing objection, I suppose. So when I say, like, in the first section, well, let's not even go into that bit. I'm just going to talk about how I plan this. So tangible. I'm thinking about what's the next part of it. Okay, so the elements of the quiz is that it figures out your income, how much money you have available for you to yourself to invest. Okay, that's something that defines the results that you get. So I'm figuring out from the parameters of the actual product, the results that it provides come from knowing what someone is able to invest financially, in terms of time, and also it figures out what skills they have available to them, and whether they would like to build a business or I also understand what the results are. So we've got options to do affiliate marketing or coaching or freelancing. So it kind of, your skill level and your ability to play with certain things and the amount you can invest, all of these options depend on those different factors. So that's what I want to explain in the tangible section, because that's what makes the path assessment valuable, is it takes all of those questions from you, it takes all of your personal circumstances, and then it goes, this is the best option for you based on the circumstances we've got. And then I'll figure out an objection to that as well, which is, what if someone doesn't like that? If I did this path assessment and it told me to be a freelancer, I say, well, I did freelancing, it didn't work out for me. Well, I know the next step of the path assessment is that gives you alternative options and also an analysis as to why it's giving you these options, right? Now, this is really interesting because the next step of that is free training. But I don't want to sell the free training. It's tempting for me to sell the free training that comes after the path assessment. So once you've taken it and you've gone through it, and then you go, you end up at the end, you then have this other brilliant value, which is to get the free training and do free training down that avenue to really get your feet wet. But I'm going to attribute that value to that next step. So I will want a sales letter or some kind of advert or some kind of copywriting at the end of the quiz to sell them onto the free training, right? Because I don't think it's the front end advert's job, because all I've got to do is get them through the end of the path assessment. So then I'm going, the tangible section has to incorporate all those things. So I've still got to have this problem, solution, call to action. Problem is the trading time for money, having no freedom in your life. The solution is to so the problem is actually not knowing what path to go down to get that lifestyle that you want. The second step is to figure out the right path for you. Third step is the call to action. But what's valuable about the product here is that the circumstances it takes into consideration. So it says, okay, if you let's talk about if you've got a lot of money to invest or not a lot of money to invest, if you've got a lot of time to invest or not a lot of time to invest, or skills or services that you could potentially sell versus no skills or services that you can get started with at all. That's what is the value of this. And I know that we know that from having spent time in this area, that those are three things that people sort of struggle with, like, or those are the things that define the different avatars, I suppose. Because the one avatar is really someone who wants the freedom to live life how they want to live, but they're separated between ability to invest financially, ability to invest their amount of time, and ability to have a skill that they could sell versus not. You know, those are the things that really separate them. So that's the value of this assessment, is that it distinguishes between those people and helps them with a bespoke sort of business to them. And that's what I've got to include in that section. That's the real tangible relevance of the quiz is that. But I'm still incorporating create the freedom in your life, or create time freedom, etc. So I'm going to keep that in there. So that's how my tangible section is done. But I'm relating that, all of that mechanical bit, the objections and the circumstances. So how I defined it with the path assessment advert was, your circumstances determine the value of the quiz, sort of thing. So this is all about the circumstances and the quiz, but then it will finish off. So if you want to create this time freedom in your life and stop trading time for money, then click the link to learn the right business path for you, etc. So we've got the problem, solution, call to action in relationship to the tangible section. The next step, I know this is really complicated, and I don't think people actually ever go into this much detail, is to then figure out the legitimate section. So all you have to do now is demonstrate the validity of the two sections. And just to give you some sort of, insight, I think if you nail these first two sections, it's like the longer someone, each section is less and less, not significant, that's not true. I think the bulk of the work is done at the beginning. However, I think if you convert someone on the later messages, they're more likely to be loyal. That's what I think. Like the flippant, low-hanging fruit will convert earlier on, but it is important to have this message in here, because if someone does make it to this part of the advert and they then convert, I think it says something about their loyalty to it. That's my theory. I haven't tested this, but that's my sort of belief. It makes sort of sense to me in a universal principle sort of way, right? Majority of the value comes from the beginning, but the value that does come from the end also might create a huge amount of leverage. So that's my theory. It seems to make sense in my brain, but I haven't tested that. But regardless of which, if you nail those two sections, you're so ahead of the curve. And then the last section is just about going, here is the evidence that this is all legitimate. So my example was, I'm thinking about, I've tried so many different avenues. My circumstances changed depending on each one. And eventually, and then I ended up doing coaching sort of last year, which fit really well for me for my circumstances at that time. But then as time developed, the alternatives arose as well. I've done like e-commerce, but there's a lot of time invested into that, which I struggled with when it was the right thing. And I'm just talking about my experience from the entrepreneurial mindset as to how I've experienced multiple paths, and how let's just say, what the story I'm looking for is how I failed down loads of paths, but succeeded with one, and how that has benefited me. So I failed down, well, I didn't necessarily fail down, but this is a story that I sort of shared to sort of emulate the thing. It's like if let's say you struggled with trading, something or other, and you it was because you didn't have enough upfront capital to invest in order to play with, and the returns weren't big enough. What you need is a much faster cash injection, and you're someone who's got a skill to sell, then coaching is an ideal one for you to at least get started with to get the financial cash flow. But maybe if your ultimate goal is to create a passive income, you know that coaching might not necessarily be the right long-term course for you. So maybe you want to get into coaching straight away because you've got a sellable skill, you've got time available, and you need a cash injection and don't have much to invest. But in the long run, you'd like to have your own, you'd like to get it back into trading with the money that you make from coaching. And this would be an experience similar to or akin to what I had. That could be something I would share in that respect, because it's a personal account of that situation that doesn't necessarily have to follow all the details of the avatar, but it shows the relationship of how that works. And so, but the main thread of that is that there was a problem with the path, which path to take, and there was a problem, and the solution was to find the right path. And ideally, now here's the problem, is because I didn't take the path assessment, so I wasn't the best case study. That is brand new, so we don't have that. Ideally, it'd be like, I didn't know which path to take, and I was trying all these paths and blah, blah, blah. And some needed investment and some needed lots of time. And I didn't know which one to invest into, because if I'm going to see it all the way through and it not be right for me, then that's my life ruined, you know? So then finding out what path was right for me with the path assessment enabled me to commit to a path which has helped me finally create the change in my life, right? So it's always got to end on the change or the dream that you get to achieve through going through the mechanics of that process and that happening. And then, so if that's something you resonate with, then click the link, go and take the path assessment. That's how it would be. And so you can see then, and like those, each three of those sections are super detailed in different ways. And it comes from researching and it comes from planning, right? I've done those 3 pages where I've got relatable, tangible, legitimate, all of the things that relate back to them, and it all has a problem solution call to action, and it all has that barometer of tangible to abstract, each among them. It's a real matrix. And then once you've planned that out, the third step is to draft. And what you want to do, and there's a couple ways that I recommend this. What you want to do is you want to write and not stop, or go for a long walk. And I know this sounds maybe a bit counterintuitive. Just go for a walk. I even encourage you to resist writing it for as long as possible. And this works for me, because sometimes I get to that point where I'm like, it has to be written now. Like I'm mulling it over, and it's like, it's making my head burst. And then I have to deliver it. And once I get to that stage, that's when, and I recommend even, to be honest, when you get to that stage where it's bursting, just get in front of the camera. And the only thing that you need to remember is relatable, tangible, legitimate. Now, something to add to that is I do have the two bolt-ons, intro, conclusion, essentially. So introducing the idea really fast, and that would be your hook, essentially. Like the intro, a lot of people, I've said this before, a lot of people talk about they do the intro as if it's another relatable section. They go into too much detail. So you've got 2 relatable sections, and that just throws the whole balance of the advert off. It's way too long. But you want to have this powerful hook, question thing. But I think the hook comes last. It comes out of once you've got this whole plan in place, and then you close it off. The reason why you close it off at the end, you don't just stop at the legitimate, and I said this before, is because it's just a wind down to let them know there's no new information coming. Okay, you should, apart from the intro and the conclusion, within the body, there should never be a repetition of the same point. It should be a continuous offloading of new information. It's always new information, new perspectives or new insights of the same point, but of multiple different dimensions and perspectives. Because so what the conclusion does as a function is it sort of says, no new information coming now. So if you haven't clicked, it's about time you do that. And it sort of helps finalize that thing. And if you're super engaging, then you've held their attention all the way through to the end, then you're going to want to let them know, like, there's no more new information to come, so click if you're relevant, so that they're not waiting for some more value. And basically, so the writing stage, and there's a few things that I just share quickly in a practical sense, which I know, I know this can be, I suppose, not challenging. I suppose people struggle with this, especially within my community. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do to stay on top of this and actually move forwards. So let's do docs. My mouth is so dry. Woo! I'm on a roll. Okay, so with the docs, now you're going to be super slow. Okay, so let's get this guy up. I'm going to lose some attention here. All right, so what you're going to do quickly is, once you have written first draft, it'll be super slow. All right, so my computer's struggling. Okay, here you go. Come on, you can do it. First draft. Let's just say you've got loads of, all right. Basically, you're going to have all your sections here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to insert horizontal line. Never again shall you touch the piece of the first draft above here. When you get to the drafting stage, the writing stage, you're going to write and you're just not going to stop. You're going to write. But what you're going to do is you're going to try and remember, you're going to refer back to your plan only. That's all you're allowed to do. You cannot backspace, you cannot edit. If you don't make the point in the way that you want to make it, you just keep typing until you get all the information out that you want to get. So your sentence could be like 5 lines long. So long as you get the point that you're trying to make, you can really just get it out and try and really feel like this is all the information that I want in the relatable section. Then you're going to look at your tangible bit and say, okay, I'm going to get all of this information in there in this tangible section. Same with the legitimate section. Just get all the information in those compartments, and you're going to keep writing, and you're not going to go back and edit. You're just going to keep going and get it all out, right? You're just going to keep on until you've got it all out, and it's mostly within this structure. And maybe if you're writing the tangible bit and you realize that there's supposed to be a relatable bit, you don't go backwards. Just start a new line, and you're going to give an asterisk, and you're going to give it a 1. Oh, that's not, all right, well, that doesn't work necessarily here, but asterisk 1, and then you're going to put the asterisk 1 to denote that this is part of the relatable section, but you're going to keep going. Just make sure you have no ability to go backwards. You can only go forwards. And the asterisk will demonstrate where you can rearrange that later. And then once you've done that, you've done your whole first draft, you've not gone back once, you've not edited anything. If there's a mistake, you just rewrite it. And what you're doing is not rewriting it, you're clarifying where that sentence went wrong or that information you missed out was. You're not rewriting anything, you're just clarifying any confusion within that first draft. And then after you've done your first draft, you're going to insert a line here. You're going to then put the date. So what date is it today? 20th, 4th, 21. You can copy and paste your first draft. This is the only thing you're allowed to do to it. That's it, it's done now, it's set in stone. You can edit this. You're allowed to edit this. And once you've done that edit, you're going to do the same again, insert line. And this will forever be your draft document, and you will not have more than one document. You'll have one document with all your drafts on it. And if you bugger up this edit, it's okay. You can just take this first one and put it back here again on the next date. And this is how it goes. And so if you keep buggering up your drafts, this is your set in stone guy, right? This is the one. It will have, and this is the well from which all other things will come from, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to highlight that and you're going to drag it into this bit here. And it's going to be called, well, let's delete that for a second. Delete. It's going to be called Launchable Ad draft. I'm going to move that, and it's going to go here, and it's going to stay there forever, and it's going to be accessible to you, and it will never change. And that's where it's going to go. It's your master document. It's your master messaging document. And that is it. That is how you draft. Research. Stop now. Research. Planning. The planning will have the problem, solution, call to action, the Holy Grail, the description, immediate benefit, the who would want it, which will eventually turn into the problem, solution, call to action, which will then be implemented into the relatable, the tangible, and the legitimate section. And you can and at that stage, then once you've got that bulk, you can test hooks, I suppose. So you can put a few test hooks on there, but hooks are not different hooks. They're all variations of the same hook. So what you want to do is somehow, once you've got the relatable, the tangible, and the legitimate, summarize it in 5 seconds. That is the hook. Like you don't try all this crazy, whatever. Find a way of summarizing your whole thing, this massive thing, in 5 seconds of speaking, and that is your hook. And that seems like a very difficult thing to do, because it is, because you have to cut a lot of fluff. But it's just it's your elevator pitch, essentially. That's what some definitions of it are. Really, really quickly saying the argument, and then once you put it out there, what that does is it shows whoever's watching. It gives them all the context they need to decide whether or not you're worth watching or not. And you're going to say it. And the only thing that a hook variation will do is say that same summary in 5 different ways. So you're going to summarize your whole argument into something that would take you 5 seconds to say, and you're going to find multiple different ways of saying that. And that's the only way that a hook will vary. Okay? So you could create it in so many, you could sing it as a way, that would be interesting, right? You want to find a way to get their attention, but it's still got to contain the kernel of value, which will develop into popcorn. I don't know where I've got kernel from, but there we go. So, and then the conclusion, I would say, is the hook closed. Okay, so you don't have to do it this way, but I think we get this real sense of completion, or we get that sort of like this feeling of satisfaction when the whole story draws to a close. So whatever you open with, it'd be ideal if you close with it. But obviously, if you're just doing hook variations, you don't necessarily have to do that. But whatever happens, just give it a close off to give them that last opportunity to click, And that is my lecture on drafting, basically. I don't know if I've got anything else to sort of say to that. Oh, I suppose landing pages. No, that'll be a whole other thing. I suppose that's drafting a long form content. I suppose what this does is it the purpose of this is to sort of go, this is the draft of all drafts. How detailed I've got. You get all of this detail in. You only have to do this once, because I promise, like, it will, if you get as much detail in as I have shown you today, and you get all of that information in, and you will start to become a master of the material that you're promoting, and you start to become so compelling because you're just saying it like it is from so many different dimensions, and there's conviction, and there's truth, and there's what makes you stand out is your expertise on the subject. And you fill all this stuff in, and it is the draft of all drafts, and no advert you create will sort of veer from this. You can, but ultimately that should be enough, and it will be enough to be launchable. And just to let you guys know, this is how I create my adverts. I think the path assessment one is 6 minutes. We only launched it yesterday, but already it's performing quite nicely. I don't have time to share it with you today. But when I will find an opportunity, maybe you'll see it pop up on the internet at some point soon. But just to sort of like give you this clarity as well, I've done a lot of variations in my that's okay. Someone Undine has to leave, but that's cool. Just to give the final clarity that this sounds super long, and everyone talks about length, like not like it's a problem, but this idea of length is not something that I seem to struggle with. So what I've done with my current ad that's converting nicely now is I did so many variations where I cut it down, and the original lengthy one is so far winning. And it's like, it defied my understanding as well. I've tried to cut it, but maintain the quality, and it's just not as good. And it's not nice, in my opinion, but my Launchable structure worked. With my intro, with the relatable section, with the tangible section, with the legitimate section, it's working. And the ads so that's a 5, the one that's performing the best is the 5-minute 30, I think it is. And I've got it down to a minimum of 3 minutes or something like that. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't, it has to be that long, but I'm just sort of letting you know that the length doesn't matter as long as it's detailed and informative and good. It's not the length that's a problem, it's value. How much value are you providing? And if you're not providing a huge amount of value, but you're providing a huge amount of time, that is even less valuable, right? People value their time. So if you're taking up someone's time, you want to make it worth it. So the time isn't the problem. If your advert is long, what's the problem is if you're wasting their time. So don't waste their time. Give them shitloads of information, basically. So far, my adverts are doing okay. I don't say one more thing as well. Really great adverts on YouTube that are professionally shot. They're a lot shorter. And there's a lot to be said about a scene and a setting and a script. I've a much shorter advert with a friend of mine as well, which covers a lot of the points. But because we're acting it out, I'm not just explaining as much. So we've got it down to a way shorter time. So I'm not saying that all adverts should be 5 minutes. I'm just saying that if you don't have a set, and if you don't have a scene, and if you haven't got real props to convey the message fast. So visual, it conveys message really quickly, but when you're talking, you have to negotiate with time, because you have to explain something in detail in order to provide the full picture that an image would do, right? A picture paints 1,000 words. If you're talking, it's going to take you a lot longer to talk about picture. However, if you continue giving detail about it, it holds attention. Obviously, there's drawbacks to that. So this is more helping you if you're a talking head advert, basically. Like if you're not an acting out role or whatever, you're just talking. It's going to be a longer advert, and the structure I've shared with you today and the detail that I've shared with you today will create a lengthier ad. However, I have the evidence to say it's fine. The advert that that we're doing with the path assessment, I think, is about 6 minutes. We've only launched it a day ago, but I think it would be to a first world country, and we've got a cheap lead straight away. Not enough data, but so far it's looking right. So that's just sort of note on the length of it. And also why the length, like, it's not necessarily typical a 5-minute ad doesn't mean it's quality, but it's the amount of information that someone can absorb that makes something quality. So that's that, right? And once you've got that draft, I think I'm going to keep my results one more week to see if this stands clear. But I recently took verbatim words from my advert and put them onto my landing page, and the landing page is performing really, really well. It's a new experiment, so I don't necessarily think that's enough detail, because before I was trying to summarize it and try and get the message, but then I was like, what happens if I actually take verbatim the right words, not just any old words, but the right words, and put them on the landing page? And this is sort of sharing that thing as well. Like, once you've got the bulk and that advert done, it can then literally do all of the rest of the work for you. It will literally just be done. Like, let's see. I'm running the experiment to see if that works. But so far, it's the highest landing page conversion I've had, and it's been running for enough time where it's still surprising. So anything can happen. Like, obviously, campaigns change over time, but that's that. So it's a very interesting discovery for me, and definitely something I'm looking forward to sharing. But the first thing is to get the ad down and get it detailed, and that's how you do it. You have to learn all those things, you have to plan it, and you have to deliver it in those. Well, I recommend you deliver it in those 3 sections and those 3 segments. And that's about it. I've got some messages in the chat. Oh, so someone said they had to leave. Okay, yeah, cool. These are nice comments. Sticky notes. That's funny. Sticky notes glue was meant to be stronger until they worked out it held little pieces of paper together well. Yeah, that's a good example of product which is intended use, although knowing that probably doesn't help the marketing. Have I got any quick questions? I said quick because I've definitely run over longer than I was. So if anyone's got a long question, I suppose I could answer it, but quick questions would be ideal. Oh, Julia, you have a quick question. Come hither. Oh, wait, I'm muted. Got on mute, yeah. There you go. I think I should be able to hear you now.
Yeah, it's a really great session. Thanks, Caroline.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit slower. I didn't quite get, when I was really trying to concentrate, on the asterisk and the writing draft. Are you saying that you just go for it once and then rework it?
Yeah. So it's just like, here, I'll show you that again because I do think I did skim over that. I will actually give you a demonstration. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so let's say, it's just my computer's not, I think this is taking up a lot of the processing speed. Okay, so relatable, right? Relatable, please work, come on. No. Okay, so you're experiencing problems with the way you're earning money because you're trading time, this is going to be spelled badly, trading time for money, and you know there's a better way, and you know that if you earned money differently to whatever, how you're earning it right now, you'd have more freedom in your life, and freedom in your life is what's important to you because you don't have a lot of time with your family. See, I'm just kind of like blurting it out. Family, and your family is the most important thing to you. Okay, so then that's the problem section. Then I say the solution section, like, so earning money in a way that wasn't trading time for it would mean you could earn money whilst not working, i.e., let's say, i.e., if you, i.e., you want to give details, not necessarily the product bit, i.e., getting paid a commission on whilst you're sleeping, or spending time with your family, and so you're secure and free. Let's just say that. So that would be, okay, so CTA, and let's just have the call to action. And that's kind of a good amount of detail as well. So then the next bit would be, let's say now you're writing the tangible bit. So what this would be is call to action, watch free, I'm going to use the business one, watch free workshops which teach you, show you everything. This is what actually show you everything you need to know to get started with an online business from scratch. So that. Now the tangible section, I'm going to say, okay, so these workshops are designed for beginners, let's just say. Okay, So this is interesting. So if you have no experience whatsoever, then this is a great way to start. And you want to give so much detail at start in terms of building an online business to free yourself. And now what I've realized is that, and you should never don't just pluck information out of anywhere. So these workshops are designed for beginners. Well, I've mentioned nothing about beginners, but I do know that this is important. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, here's the asterisk, 1. So in the relatable section, so I'm going to have to put this, so under here, this asterisk will go there or something like that, but asterisk 1. So problem, okay. You want to have freedom to spend more time with your kids, but you're totally inexperienced at earning money in a different way. And to be honest, the asterisk thing might be a bit complicated. What you could do is you could just go, let's just get rid of that, because this is what I used to do with essays, basically. And I like to try and emulate the way I write freestyle onto the laptop so that I don't go back and edit too much. But so you might even just, you could, if you didn't want to do the thing there, but you could just, I don't know, let's do that there and say relatable. Asterisks are, maybe, to denote that different way. So you know that just has to go back in there. So then you come back to this. These workshops are designed for beginners, so if you have no experience whatsoever. They show you, so it's kind of sandwiched in there. They show you how to get started with affiliate marketing, for example, which is a business opportunity that means you can, as I say, you can promote products or services that already exist and can automate a lot of the work so that you can earn and have free time, which you can then use to spend time with your kids, right? We're relating it back upwards. I'm still doing the problem solution. So if you'd like to learn more about this business model and how you can automate affiliate marketing systems to create more time freedom in your life to spend with your kids, then click this link to get the free workshops, right? And I'm feeling what I feel like once I've done that, I'm like, that's a good amount of information. I'm going to leave it there and I'm going to go on to the legitimate section, right? I have done this myself. I watched this workshop even though I had no experience, because I felt like I was being an absent mum, and it was important for me to find the way to spend more time with my kids. And the thing that was stopping me was working, but I couldn't stop working because I needed to earn money. Now, what this says to me as well is I'm going to stick something else back in the relatable section. Another problem. Can't not work. Need money. There's another point that I can just, there we go. That's probably the best way to do it. I've watched these workshops and found them so useful because I was a total beginner. So the problem here is like, so we're starting to like really separate out these ideas, beginner, and they were helpful for someone at my skill level, which was basically 0. And now I have grown. You have to say what the result is, and learned so much. I know exactly. I have set up. Well, you really want to give the actual result. I have set up my affiliate marketing campaigns, which took some effort. And you can say there, that's another piece of detail. But you can say question mark effort. Relevant? Might not be. But because now they are working in the background for me, earning me an income without me trading my time for money for it. And then you want to, I kind of also go, I want to specify, it's not that I didn't work, it's that I learned to work differently, so it paid me better. Like, not paid me better again, so like not better, but more life friendly, right? And then you go, oh, life friendly, right? That's a nice way of just like, once you sort of explore things like this, I like that, life friendly. That to me says short form copy. So then and it's totally changed my life and my skill level. I'm 4,000 other people. My community also have experienced this CTA. And then, right, done. That is it. And I realized, like, obviously, you know, don't beat yourself up because this is like really quick. I've obviously, it's something to impress upon you is I've learned this so much. So this is just one thread, and the thread comes from the fact that you're a beginner in business who's a working mum, not spending time with your kids, and you need a better way to earn money. That's the whole thread, and that's the whole message. All comes out of the product, and I've used affiliate marketing as a sort of tangible thing. So that, but I can come at this at so many different angles because I understand it so well, because I've done so much research and I've looked into it so much. So the research phase is so important, and the more you spend time doing it, like, you know, I can just chuck these adverts out. It really doesn't take me a huge amount of time.
That's really helpful, Caroline. Thank you. I think from my perspective, I get the research. Mm-hmm. It's the structure of actually how you integrate the solution and the relatable things and the legitimacy. That has really helped me. So thanks very much for going through that.
And just quickly, I'll show you then how I do this. This is obviously today. And then what I would do, so this is like, I'm never ever touching this draft ever again, right? That's done. That's my first draft done. Now, 20th of the 4th, this is today. You go in and you go into suggestions mode. You say, okay, well, that's spelled wrong. That might be the first edit you make. And then you edit it from here. And you go, okay, well, there was this thing here. You want to have freedom to spend more time with kids, but you're totally inexperienced at earning money in a different way. Can I weave that in here? Well, this yeah, okay. So maybe I say, but you're totally inexperienced and have no clue on how to move forwards. My computer will catch up and it'll make me look like I'm typing at the speed of light. There you go. So, you know, and for me, and something I always judge it by is the size of the paragraphs. I already know, like, even if that doesn't quite fit perfectly, I want my paragraphs to each be around this length here. So what I would do then is I would say, and what we'll do, I'm going to do an edit call next week, and I will edit this advert. That might be a bit more relevant, and we'll talk about that. And I will never, just don't touch this ever again. Just don't touch it. It's done. That is it. And something to pay attention to is I loved that I came out with this. And this is like, would you like to earn money in a way that's more life friendly? That's a hook, right? And it's relevant to the whole thing. Learn how to earn money in a way that's more friendly on your life, right? That's the thing where I was saying you pluck it from the well. You don't just come up with it. Creativity is sort of, it just comes out. It doesn't just, you don't make it happen. So I don't have to go. I could stay here for a little while longer, but I am going to go because this is a long call and I'm ready for a power walk. I'm like super hyper from all this. Could be the coffee. Probably not. I think it's more of a demonstration. So I just want to, I wonder if I don't think I shared my screen with the YouTube live that I did, which is annoying. Oh, balls. So I'll have to see if I can edit that somehow and share that as well. Thanks guys. I'm glad that I was able to share that with you and get into such detail about it. And I really hope that was helpful. And on clapping hands emoji, I like that. And on the next call, I will go through editing, what my stages of editing are, and how we improve that. So yeah, that'll be the next stage. I hope that was helpful, and maybe see you next Tuesday. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon. Bye.